I'm excited to welcome in Mike Dowse, CEO of the USTA. Mike, thanks for joining me today.
Chris, thanks for having me. Haven't talked to you in quite a while, but love what you're doing for tennis.
I appreciate it, Mike. And I like to dive right into things. And first, I'd like to say kudos to you and your team for being able to pull off the U.S. Open. For me as a tennis fan, it was super exciting to have something to look forward to. For that call it 2 to 4 week span, and it was just exciting to see.
Yeah, and it's actually the kudos goes to the whole industry and the broader USTA team for pulling this together. And at the end of the day, we did what we set out to do. And we'd set three guiding principles at the beginning of the pandemic when we were making our decisions, whether to host the US Open. And that was first, can we do it safely? And that meant for the players, for the staff, for the community of New York. Secondly, is it good for tennis, right? Ultimately, is it in the best interest in tennis? And three, did it financially make sense, again, for the players, for the USTA, and for the industry? And as we look back a couple months after, I'm happy to say we did achieve that. I mean, we had over 13,000 COVID tests in a 4-week period. As you know, we had the Western and Southern and US Open together. And of those 13,000 tests, we had a 99.97% negative rate. So we had a couple positives very early on, but our protocols that we put in place prevented it from becoming an outbreak. And so we were very fortunate to pull it off safely. And as you said, I think it inspired a lot of people to play tennis. We see participation by entry-level people up over 47%. So we know the US Open had a big part in that. And financially, it was a hit to the USTA this year versus prior years. But by hosting it, we were still able to offer a player compensation almost equal to last year and generate a little bit of money that we can funnel back to our Grow the Sport mission. So overall, really happy with how it turned out.
I know it didn't happen without, any challenges. And as you had some time to reflect on it now, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as you put it together?
Yeah, I think we joke around the challenges. There was no playbook, right? The last pandemic 100 years ago, they didn't leave us a playbook for it. And it was evolving on a daily basis. And you just think about the complexity of tennis versus other sports because of the global nature. We had to bring players in from over 100 different countries from around the world. And that's just a real unique dynamic versus, let's say, the NBA or MLB. They have their own complexities, but ours were different. But those were some of the biggest challenges, making sure we did it properly. Again, anchoring everything back to our guiding principles. We wanted to do it safely. But that was probably one of the biggest challenges, just making sure that we had the federal government aligned, and they were very helpful in getting players into the country, getting the state of New York aligned, and they were very supportive in signing off on our protocol. And then even the city of New York was very supportive. So getting those three groups together was a challenge, but at the end of the day, hats off to all of them for helping us make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that. And that's a good segue into just this level of uncertainty. And as we think about 2021 and while we try to put 2020 behind us, 2021 presents a whole new set of challenges. And as you look at, the building blocks of the USTA and what you guys are trying to accomplish, how do you move in so much uncertainty to achieve those goals?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think you always have to be principally driven, and we go back to some of the same principles we talked about the US Open. It applies to community tennis too. First and foremost, we have to do things in a safe and healthy manner. We can never compromise that principle. Two, our mission is to grow and promote the sport of tennis. So we always have to answer that question, is this good for our sport? If we're holding a local league or local tournament or a national tournament or national league. And then finally, is it fiscally responsible, or are we doing it in a proper way when it comes to the funding of our mission? So those are the guiding principles we can stick with. But we are optimistic. I mean, the recent numbers we've seen on tennis are incredible. You and I were talking briefly earlier through the PAC study, which is the Physical Activity Council, has shown that entry-level tennis is up over 47% in the half of this year. So as people are coming out of the pandemic and quarantining, think about what you were missing: socialization, fun, and exercise. You were inside at home. And tennis provides all those. It's a perfect social distancing sport. You're 40 to 60 feet away during the match. So it's safe. We all know it's fun, and it's great physical exercise. So we're optimistic on tennis moving into 2021.
Yeah, I would say that's what I found this year or last year, just in terms of seeing a lot of people at the court. They can finally put aside, everything that was going on and feel really safe out there and get back to having fun. It was so exciting seeing so many first time people, show up and want lessons and want to play and want to have that experience with their family, their friends, their children. And as I think about it moving forward, as you look at the bright spots in tennis, where do you see, the biggest areas of opportunities or bright spots as we look at 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I think the bright spots, we have our core players who love the sport of tennis, but there's millions of people who have never really sampled tennis. And to me, for us, again, to fulfill our mission of promoting and growing the sport of tennis, it goes to our first strategic choice, which is attract, engage, and retain a new generation of diverse tennis players. And in a weird way, COVID is doing that for us. It's exposing tennis to so many people of different backgrounds who've never had a chance to play our great sport. So to me, again, that's the opportunity moving forward. Our core players have had some challenges, particularly at indoor clubs, as they've been closed due to COVID. But I'm confident our core players, they've already made the commitment that they're going to be tennis players for life. So we've got to get through some of these bumps in the road with the COVID restrictions, which are understandable, again, because we know where tennis stands in the importance. We can never put it above the health and safety of any community. But the bright spot to me, again, are people who haven't played in the past. And some of those growth numbers I shared with you are really all around entry-level tennis players and entry-level racket purchases. So again, the future is bright because as these new players come in, and I equate it a lot, I'm a little older than you, Chris, to the early 70s when Billie Jean King and Bobby Roode had the battle of the sexes. It attracted millions of new people to the sport because they were exposed to it through that event, that match. And COVID's doing the same for us in this generation. So the key now is to make sure all those players, as they come out to the public parks and public high schools, is that they have a great experience and a clear pathway to becoming core tennis players.
Yeah, and just to follow up to that, what do you think the most important key? It's one thing to get one play occasion, but how do you view just going from one play occasion to two play occasion? What are those aspects that you think are going to keep people coming back?
Yeah, I think the pathway, the key is to get these new players exposed to great coaches and teaching professionals who can put them in a 6 to 8 week entry level tennis lesson program. And there's so many different formats of it. There's cardio tennis, there's entry level tennis. So to me, that's the first step. Get them in a 6 to 8 week program. And then the third step after that is to get them into league tennis. So really, the first step is coming to the courts the first time. The second step is getting in a 6 to 8 week entry level program. And then the third step is to become an active player in leagues. And again, it can be USTA leagues, it can be non-USTA leagues. We're pretty agnostic to how consumers enjoy tennis, as long as they're enjoying it and having a fun time with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because one of the biggest things that I've heard from entry level players is trying to figure out, what do I do next? And they don't necessarily want to research that. They want a coach to tell them, hey, you go play league tennis, or hey, you sign up for this class, or hey, you go take this lesson. So if that pathway is very clear for not only coaches, but for players, I think that level of ease will continue to allow people to come into the sport and more importantly, stay in the sport as well.
For sure. And so, again, I think where we have to be a little careful, sometimes we become too prescriptive of the USDA and
Hmm.
tell people how to enjoy tennis. And I think one thing we're really changing the organization, we always said we were maybe a little too heavy in being a program-based organization and telling people how to play, where we want to be a service-based organization. There's so many great providers out there that how could we marry consumers with providers? And so we're launching something this year called Serve Tennis, which is a new digital platform that'll allow
Yeah.
consumers to come in, to your point, and see all the different providers in their local community and be able to engage them and reach out to them to find a program that they enjoy and that fits their personal needs and also their professional needs as far as time, what days of the week they can play and whatnot. So that's still a little bit of a work in progress, but that's ultimately where we're headed.
Nice. That's great. And just talking to you, Mike, I mean, I think the future is bright for what you guys are doing and trying to achieve. And I'm just very excited about the future of tennis. This reminds me when I was 9 years old and started playing myself. There's just so much excitement around the sport, and it's going to be exciting to ensure we capitalize on that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And as I said earlier, because I am optimistic that tennis is going to continue to grow. as we come out of this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, Mike, those are all the questions I have for you. I tremendously appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and more importantly, I look forward to getting back on the court with you and playing some doubles just like the old days.
That'd be a lot of fun. Well, Chris, thanks again for everything you're doing for tennis, and have a great new year.